inkomo ezifitshane kule mota kodwa zindala kangaka. Unbelievable. Kambe liyazibona inkomo lezi bantu imhlolo kumbe kuyinkomo?
Do you know that there are so many of our Zimbabwean citizens in other countries, whether it is abroad or in neighboring countries with Zimbabwe, who are stuck in those countries and cannot get out because of the overwhelming debt load that they've subjected themselves to? It's a sad reality of what many of our citizens are experiencing. And this problem is not as big in African countries as it is in the first world countries. You see, the first world countries, for the most part, are built on debt. Most of these countries, the lifestyle, even the family lifestyles that we live, the foundations are established on the availability of credit and debt. And this is one thing that I learned when I migrated to North America over 20 years ago. I learned very fast that it was as important for me to have debt as it was important for me to pay off the debt. Because then, very quickly, I got to be educated that I would otherwise find it very difficult to even get an apartment to live in or a place to live in if I could not prove that I have debt, which then could translate into my ability to show good credit. I could not even have a phone bill that, would need me to show my credit history. And in many cases, I could not even get a good job, depending on the type of job that I was looking for. There are many cases where employers would say, we want to see your credit. Are you in debt? Have you been reported to any credit agencies? Imagine that. From an environment like Zimbabwe, Bulawayo, where I was coming from, where I had never even in school learned beyond just the little knowledge I got from my commerce and accounting and bookkeeping classes, where nothing was mentioned about credit cards, that one day I would be working out there and I would need to have a relationship with a bank and be borrowed money on a credit card, which I could then go around swiping with somebody else's money and be entrusted with paying back that money on a monthly basis. It sounds like a very simple thing, but it's not as simple as that when you are not properly grounded and educated with the information necessary to manage that type of lifestyle and responsibility. And that is the case with many Africans when they go abroad, especially to the first world countries where credit is made readily available. That's what many Zimbabweans face when they get to Europe and when they get to North America and most of these other developed countries where credit is made readily available, because in many cases it becomes a necessity. When I found out that in order for me to be able to have a vehicle, saving for one, which would then cost me anywhere from 10,000 and above if it was a decent vehicle, I would need to walk into a dealership and probably apply for a loan. And for me to be able to get a loan, I would need to show the dealership that I've got a relationship elsewhere, which can prove that I'm a person that is good in making payments on a monthly basis. That was kind of a shock to me. And when I looked for a place to stay, I had a good job, but still I was looking for a place to stay. And they said they wanted to see my credit history, and they wanted to see my credit score for that matter. And if there was any one missing payment, that would be the difference between me getting a place to stay and not getting a place to stay. And in the case of accessing a loan to buy a vehicle, that would be the difference probably between getting the vehicle and not getting the vehicle, or better still or worse off, getting a vehicle for the highest possible interest rate versus getting a vehicle for a normal interest rate. These are some of the challenges or experiences that we as a diaspora face when we are abroad. And I'm going to talk about a situation here where you start with those necessities that teach you or that introduce you to the value and need of credit. And then all of a sudden you start piling up a number of credit cards on your back. You get one credit card. They offer you maybe, let's say, $500. And you start paying it off. You use that 500 and then you pay $100 a month. In 5 months you have paid it off, and the bank is very, very happy with you. And once you are done paying it off, or as you are continuing to pay it off, they are monitoring you, and they will send you a letter at some point, before maybe you finish paying off the $500 credit card, and they'll tell you, hey, we think that you are a very good person. You seem to be very good in making payments. How about we boost your credit to 1,500? And then you are like, oh my God, this is great. This means that I'm a good person. So you say, no problem, give me the $1,500. At that point, it's still all fun and roses, because chances are maybe your income is also allowing it. And you're like, well, you know what, I make about 3,000 a month, $3,000 or pounds a month, and that's okay. I can manage. These guys need about $200 a month for my $1,500 credit card, so I think I can do it. My rent is about $1,000 or pounds. So I've got another $2,000 that I have free, and my car payment, by the way, is only $500. So yeah, I'll have roughly, maybe after all expenses, including my food and everything, I'll have maybe about $800. So yeah, for sure, I've got $200 that I can spend on additional credit. So they add on that credit. You start paying it. You pay, and then, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line, the same bank or a different bank catches wind of the fact that you are good. You are a good payer. And they also write you a letter, and they say, hey, we see that your credit score here on your public records is showing that you are a good person. You know how to pay back debts. We are thinking that we can beat the competition. We can give you $10,000 in debt. Can you please accept this $10,000, which you can use whichever way you want, and we'll put it on a credit card, or maybe we'll give it to you as a line of credit, which is better still. And then you're like, okay, now you start to kind of get excited, but you start to sense that, I don't know if I should take this, because, okay, how much does 10,000 need me to pay back per month? And, and then you tell yourself, no, don't worry, it doesn't matter really. I'm not going to use that 10,000, but I'm going to just take it. I'm just going to I'll use maybe about another 1,000 or 2,000. And then the rest, I'll just keep it, as my back pocket cash there, just for emergencies, just in case. So you take that 10,000. Now, guess what? You have jumped from $1,500. Now you owe $11,500. Maybe you have paid off a little bit on the other one as well. So maybe let's say now, instead of $11,500, now you owe $11,000. But now, of course, you haven't, if it's a credit card you haven't used yet, it's probably not yet used up. So you discipline yourself for a month or two, where on this new card of 10,000, you maybe, decide, I'm just going to spend 1,000. It's okay. It will be 2,000 between the two cards. The other 9,000, I'll just keep it hanging there. I won't use it. Hey, somebody calls from back home and they say, we've got a big problem here. Into says, Dule Kaya Lapa. Hey, usithumezele we 500 lapha into says better. Things are terrible. We need to we 500 ekhaya. Uthi uyakhangela uthola ukuthi ku actual cash from your paycheck, if 500 ayiphume ukuthumezela ekhaya. And now what do? You're like, should I not? And then you're like, okay, you know what, let me just take an extra 500 from that 9,000 engiyigcine ngale ku credit card leliana kumbe line of credit. I'll do a cash advance, or if it's a line of credit, I'll just withdraw it and let me send it home. $500, sending it back home, and then all of a sudden your debt has gone from 2,000 or 2,500 to 3,000 or to 2,500, something like that. And, before you know it, all of a sudden, your payments start to be difficult because now your car payment, you've got your rent, you've got your credit card, which is now at about $3,000, maybe plus or minus. And it's now wiping out everything. You've got just those debts. You haven't even bought your groceries yet. You haven't bought your groceries yet. And then all of a sudden now the month end comes and you look at your debt versus the money that you earn versus the payments that you are supposed to make towards your credit cards and loan, and you realize that akusahlangani. Then you're like, oh no, what should I do? Okay, for my groceries, okay, let me take at least another 1,000 from that remaining 9,000 there. Now you've brought it down to 8,000. Now, for sure, you couldn't pay your debt this month because it was already at 3,000, but you've gone into the other 8,000 that you still had, had not used to your advantage. But now you have used another 1,000 from there, so your debt is up now to probably 3,000 or 4,000. Now you've got a bigger problem than you started with. So all of a sudden now, really, you cannot pay at the end of this current month now. So end of this month, your debt is 4,000. Your creditor starts sending you bills. The line of credit that had given you 10,000, where you have only used 2,000 so far, sends you a bill. They want 200 a month. These guys, this side, where your original bill was 1,500 after an upgrade, and they probably have also sent you another credit increase, and now maybe you've got another 1,000 or 2 from them as well, and you have used it up. Now you are probably in 4,000 to 5,000 to 6,000 debt, and now you need about $600 a month just to manage your credit card debt. Then shit hits the fan and everything splashes all over. And you can't pay anybody and anything. Well, you could pay, but the problem is, who do you pay? Because akusahlangani imali akusahlangani vele sokubheda izinto. What do you do now? You get a phone call again from home. So kufunakala imali ngale umfowethu umntwana usegula kumbe sokutheni, laphana wawuthe sikulungisele lokho kufunakala more money, kufunakala 1,000 US, ekhaya kudilwa ngama US. And then you're like, vele sengidrawuna kusasiza, let me just take khona ngale lapho lokho ngisese lokuyi credit limit khona, abakakublock, because very soon baza kublock, by the way, because you can't pay, you are not paying them properly. Uhle ugijime masinya uthathe okunye kuyi 1,000 or 2,000 khona ngale okuzalingana le 1,000 US uthumele ekhaya. Then before you know it, you're like, okay, you know what, I can't do this, I need food, I need my vehicle, and if I'm not paying my vehicle right now, my vehicle loan, I'm gonna lose my car. Now you withdraw the entire 10,000 that side so that you can keep it safe in your checking account. And then now you start using that to buy your groceries and everything. And then you start juggling your paycheck between all these different lenders who now have put you in debt 15 to 20 to 30,000. And then all of a sudden, all hell has broken loose. And a trip back home becomes a dream never to come true again anytime in the near future. Because unless you end up just saying, I don't care, I'm just gonna go home regardless of the repercussions with my creditors, you will have to stick it up, stay overseas, get 2-3 jobs, work, send money home, stay there where you are, and work 2-3-4 jobs, and hope that at some point or another you will get out of that rat race. And it's very tough. And sometimes people don't realize this is the lifestyle that some of us or some of our people in the diaspora end up living, or are in fact living. It's a very sensitive topic or subject, that many people don't even want to talk about, Even Lami Ninja, I cannot dish out the entirety of my private life to anybody just willy-nilly, just for the fun of it. Absolutely not. But again, this is what people are facing in their private quarters, in their homes. Suffering in secret and heavily in debt, feeling abandoned in the diaspora, not able to go back home, yet having to provide for dependents, family members back home at the expense of the luxury and comfort that they should otherwise be having for all the work that they do. So, lithini ngalindaba bantu bakithi? What do you say about this? Please hit those comments. Do you live in the diaspora? Have you had an experience with debt that is not comfortable? I know I've had experience. Listen, in my case, I'll tell you a little of me. I have been educated, by debt the hard way, because I've been in debt personally, head over heels, some people say, and luckily, very quickly and willingly, I was able to get myself out of debt. And now I know how to have good debt, and I know how to manage debt, and I know where debt is necessary and where debt is not necessary, and how to pay it back. You see, last footnote. In the first world, like I said, if I did say it earlier, debt is not something that you can avoid. Recently, I got a call from an old friend of mine, a gentleman that actually had come to the country, which is where I am now. This guy had come as an immigrant from India, and he met me at a job where I was working, and like I was saying, we were dealing with debt, and he asked me for advice, and I gave him a bit of advice about life in the country and how, as a newcomer, you could do things in order to make your life, in order to integrate better and so forth. And one of the pieces of advice that I gave him that he recently reminded me on was, don't go out of your way to avoid debt. It's not avoiding debt that is going to be the trick for you to be able to survive in these countries, which are the first world countries. It is your ability to get proper debt and to manage it well that will make you a success as opposed to a failure. This guy called me recently, and I hadn't spoken to him in about 15 or so years. He called me recently with a real estate agent that I had referred him to. He was in the process of buying a property, and he met up with a mutual real estate agents, and they called me together. And the first thing he said to me, he said, Mr. Siziba, we're just talking about you, and I remember a conversation that I had with you when I met you, and it turned out to be so true, and thank you for that advice. I said, what are you talking about? He said to me, you told me about the fact that I could not avoid debt in North America, but I just needed to know how to manage it and how to get proper debt. And he said, I used that advice, and I'm thanking you today and reminding you about it. It is literally 15 years later. I found that very interesting, and yeah, so just thought to throw that out there, and just to say, that's the life of a diaspora in the first world. It's a culture shock for many of us when we get here, but it's something that we end up needing to get used to and to accustom ourselves to, and just make sure that at the end of the day, we can do it. An uncle of mine once said to me, there is one thing that is important in life, which you need to realize, and it is that you must at some point pay yourself. No matter how much debt you have, we shouldn't live for debt. Yes, pay debts, but also remember to pay yourself as well. Because when you are in some of these countries, the only thing they will keep reminding you every month end is the debt that you need to pay them back. But you also need to know that you must also pay yourself. It will reduce your stress levels, it will reduce your depression and all sorts of stuff. And it will get you to make those visits back home, to relax a little bit and come back and work even harder to pay off those debts and to get more things to support, or more financing or resources to support your family. So I also make sure that amongst my debts is the debt that I have to myself, which is to pay myself and gain my own comfort while I'm paying my phone company their bill, and while I'm paying my credit company their bill. And if sometimes I have to phone my, to give a call to my phone company, and say, hey, this month I'm not giving you guys money because I need to take a quick vacation elsewhere, I will do that. But what is important is next month when I come back, I'll make sure that I make that phone call back to the phone company and pay them their money. But I'm not going to sacrifice years after years after years just to deal with creditors and nothing to show for it in terms of me paying myself and taking care of myself. That's just what I've decided to do, and what I've learned as well as I've grown in this world of debt is that we cannot avoid in our lives. Again, great to have been with you today. This is Tabosi Ziba with Asixoxeni. Let's talk with Ziba. I would love to hear what you guys have to say on the comments section. Do you have debt? What do you say about it? What is your experience of debt? Whether it is about you or what you have heard, your experience. Come on, let's have a conversation. Thank you so much for your support on the channel.